The more you genuinely act on behalf of others, the more you will get in return. Why don't you give more? You're listening to Idea Charger Radio. Hey there, Success Chargers. Welcome back once again for another great episode. This is Scott, and we normally talk a lot about what you can do to make yourself successful, but I found that one of the most amazing things is that when you put enough good things and energy and effort out into the world on behalf of other people, many times that finds its way back to you. Some people call that karma. I call that being a good citizen of the world. So that brings us to page 62 of the book Connect 77 Idea Chargers to help generate high voltage results today, which shares the quote, "The more you genuinely act on behalf of others, the more you will get in return. Give more." And I'm going to challenge you this week when you listen to this episode. I have a very special guest that's joining us this week, a good friend of mine from the Dallas, Texas area named Jeremy Bradford. And Jeremy runs a foundation called Face2Face Foundation. I encourage you, stop by their website, Face2Face, that's face, the number 2, face, foundation.org. And please go out and check out their site, see what they do, because it's, you know what, I'm not going to steal any thunder. I'm going to let Jeremy explain what they do, how they do it, the difference they're making in the world. And I got to tell you, folks, as someone who has financially contributed to this organization, I just want to make sure that you get a chance to hear what they do. In putting this episode together, we mashed together a couple of technologies. If you notice a couple of quirks or some weird things about sometimes my voice sounds in studio, the radio, sometimes it sounds like it's coming through two cans with a string pulled real tight through it. Just know that we did, post-production took a lot of work to put this one together. But we did it for you because the story was absolutely worth telling. Sit back and enjoy this story, and I hope it moves you to get out there and do something good for somebody else today. All right, folks, I've got with me here on the phone today, all the way from Dallas, Texas, Mr. Jeremy Bradford, the executive director and what do you call yourself? The founder, the guru, the godfather, whatever we want to call you there.
My official title is the founder and managing director of Face2Face Foundation.
All right, founder and managing director of Face2Face Foundation. I want to get that right. And folks, as we hear a little bit about the foundation, you may want to check it out yourself. If you're sitting by your computer or sitting somewhere nearby, stop on over to the interwebs and type in face2facefoundation.org. That's .org, and that's face, the number 2, Face Foundation, all is one word, .org. If you go to .com, you're going to find some folks at another fine organization that has a very similar name, but it's not us. It's not Jeremy's group. It's not the folks we're talking to. Jeremy, let's go back for a minute, because many people listening today may or may not be aware of Face2Face Foundation. Could you, in a nutshell, describe what your foundation does?
Absolutely. Thanks, Scott. And first, I want to congratulate you on Success Charger. Face2Face Foundation is a nonprofit that I started a few years ago, and our mission is to connect children with life-limiting disease and disabilities with their celebrity heroes through the magic of Skype or FaceTime, Google Hangout, some sort of video chat application. We have had the opportunity to work with some really cool celebrities, the Los Angeles Dodgers ace pitcher Clayton Kershaw, Patrick Dempsey, the actor from, I remember him from Can't Buy Me Love, but he's most probably better known as Dr. McDreamy in Grey's Anatomy.
You bet.
We've gotten to work with him and several other celebrities. More importantly, we've worked with some amazing kids that, for whatever reason, got handed got dealt a bad hand. They're fighting. Not all of them are fighting for their lives. Some of them just kind of fighting a bump in the road. Some of them, are fighting for their lives. But we get to go in and connect them with their hero and kind of brighten their day a little bit, and that's what we're all about.
Man, that's some good work. There's a lot of organizations out and about that all of them do fine work, particularly when you think about working with kids, right? And kids that have, especially those that are dealing with some real challenges. I want to give our listeners a chance to hear a little bit about kind of the genesis of Face2Face Foundation. You and I have sat down before and talked through a little bit of the story of where it all began, but would you mind retelling that story for us today?
Absolutely. We started back a few years ago. My sister's a pediatrician up in Wichita, Kansas. She and I were raised in Oklahoma, and she had a young lady that was in her care. She had been in the hospital for several months, and one day while doing her rounds, my sister, her doctor, goes into a room, starts talking to her, and she mentioned that and the girl got all kinds of excited, and she goes, "You're from Oklahoma. Do you know Toby Keith?" And my sister kind of laughed and said, "No, I like some of his songs, but I haven't met him." She says, "Well, if you ever meet him, tell him I said hi. I'm his biggest fan." And so the next day, she goes into the little girl's room again on her rounds and says, "Hey, you're the doctor from Oklahoma. Did you meet Toby yet? Did you tell him I said hi? If I see him, I'll tell him you said hi." So that's kind of where I got brought into the mix. Having worked in Oklahoma, I worked in politics. That was kind of my career. And I was, fortunate to know some folks that knew people. And I got a hold of a friend of mine, and he was able to make a phone call. And a couple days later, Toby was on the phone with her. And, that to me was the greatest feeling in the world, knowing that all it took was me reaching out to somebody. It took no money. It took no real time. And we were able to make that girl's day. And so, that's kind of how we started. And the idea came to, hey, Skype, that the iPads were coming out with the front-facing cameras. This was early iPhone days, but they, with Skype and FaceTime, becoming more popular, hey, that was awesome getting him on the phone, but if she could have seen him face to face, then that would have been even cooler. So, we went. We created this nonprofit, and the rest, I guess, is history.
Man, it's so cool. It's so often, so many people that are in the world that when you hear about something great that occurs, it usually starts with a real simple story, and your story was just that, right? It was an innocent comment by a kid that got excited. Your sister thought, well, maybe you know somebody, and she gave you a call, and you called a few people. It's the whole idea of 6 degrees of separation, right? That you're not more than 6 people away from somebody that was in a movie with Kevin Bacon or whoever. Name the celebrity, right?
It's all there.
It's all there.
That game with my buddies in college all the time.
Oh yeah, the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, and it's so true, and so many times we have people that are like, oh yeah, I know this guy, I know this gal, and I think of some of the random people that I've met, in my own life, people that I know that have been on reality TV shows, and people that have been with some famous arts troupes that travel around and do some things, and people that have had other varying successes, and one of the guys I went to high school with is an NFL coach, and I got some friends that work other places that, deal with celebrities and work with folks. And, it's most of us know somebody. And that connection oftentimes goes back to a small town. And so you mentioned that you've got this, and you talked to, you got this young lady connected with Toby Keith, got him to chat on the phone. Tell us, how did you come about with the second one? Because the first one makes sense. I get that. Where did the second opportunity come from?
The second one that we did, the first one that we did with a Skype was actually with Bethany Hamilton, who was a soul surfer. People might remember there was a movie made about her. She was a young girl in Hawaii, hoping, her dream was to be a professional surfer. And she got attacked by a shark. She lost an arm. And was down for a bit, but she persevered, got back on the surfboard, is, a top women surfer in the world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so we were able to get with her. and she was willing to do it. We connected her with a young girl down in San Antonio, Texas, who was she was born without one of her arms, and so she kind of knows the same challenges that Bethany. Bethany kind of had a disadvantage compared to this little girl because, Bethany, knew life with both of her arms and everything worked. And she had to learn how to balance and all the things that we take for granted, let alone get on a surfboard. But this little girl,
right.
This little girl, was born with a lot of issues. Poland syndrome, I believe, is what it's called. She's born without one of her arms. Her chest, her sternum was, her mother said, was like a shipwrecked hole. It was just, so they had to go in and rebuild her rib cage. And, all of this at birth, and she wasn't supposed to make it. Now I think she just started high school this year. So we connected her with Bethany Hamilton, and we're able to do that. It was a lot of fun. Bethany was great to Skype with, and she was on a beach in Hawaii surfing, and she ran into her house right off the beach to hop on and Skype and Skype with her. And it's been kind of fun. She and her now husband, they were on the show Amazing Race last year, so it was fun to say, hey, I know a little bit about her, because I'm there with the kid when they Skype. So, it was, fun to have kind of that inside look, and to be able to say, hey, she took time out of her day, and it was really cool. It was a really neat experience.
I get so fired up. As a matter of full disclosure, I am someone that has been a supporter of your foundation in a number of ways, including financial, but more so just trying to help get the word out about what you do. And the stories like you just told about Toby and about Bethany, and there have been so many others, and I always look forward to, when the new newsletter comes out and shows up, that's got another story with yet another picture of another kid that whatever condition, whatever situation, whatever challenge that they're going through at that period of time, you can see that sparkle in their eye in the photo. Even those kids that may be in a state that they can't really smile, you can see it in their eyes.
I'm glad you're able to see the sparkle in their eye in the photo. If we put their photo on a newsletter, that sort of thing, to be there firsthand, it's amazing just to be able to make a difference in these kids' lives. And, one other story, if I may add,
please.
We had a young man who his hero, all he wanted to be in life was a monster truck driver. And his hero was a guy named Dennis Anderson. When I started this, I've got to be honest, I'd never heard of Dennis Anderson. I don't know anything about monster trucks. I've learned since then, and I've become a huge fan of Dennis Anderson. Dennis Anderson was a pioneer in the monster truck, monster jam.
Oh, he's kind of a big deal.
Gravedigger. Yeah. He's got a place, I think he's in South Carolina. He's got a place called the Digger's Dungeon, where it's kind of a museum, and you can go and kids can play on the old trucks, and I'm sure it's a gift shop and that sort of thing. He's got a place out in on the East Coast where he's from. No response. I called Monster Jam, their corporate office up in the Chicago area. No response. I called a guy named Scott Cooksey, you might have heard of. And I
think I've heard of that guy.
Talking to Scott Cooksey. And he said, I know a guy that works NASCAR. I'm like, okay, well, they both have motors, but, whatever. And so you got me in touch with this guy at NASCAR. He was, was able through sponsors, because they're, all the decals that they slap on their cars and on the trucks and all that, we were able to go through one of the sponsors, and they were big-hearted enough to say, hey, we would like for Dennis to do this. Now, I don't think they were saying, hey, Dennis, do this, or else we pull our sponsorship. I don't think it was anything like that. I'm not suggesting that. But they were able to go to Dennis with this story of this young man and we pulled it off. And Dennis was actually at a car show in Las Vegas. One of the Monster Jam guys that was touring with him, we connected on Google Hangout. And the little boy, his name is Landon. Landon, by this point, Landon had cancer, and it was pretty, what's the word? I'm
pretty far advanced, if I recall.
I'm not a clinical person, but it was pretty advanced, yes. We Skyped with Dennis, or did a Google Hangout with Dennis Anderson in October of 2013, and in January, Landon passed away. And if you go to our website, and I'm not trying to do a shameless plug, but Face2Face Foundation.org with the number 2, Face2Face Foundation.org, there's a video, and Landon's mother, gave a wonderful, wonderful testimonial. But if you watch that video, it shows you Landon's story. It shows you, how we were able to, to do something really cool for him in his final months. His remains are in an urn, and that's held in a box with a gravedigger truck on top of it. That's how much he loves Gravedigger.
Wow, I didn't know.
I
didn't know that part of the story.
And it's actually on the video. You see it because, when we filmed the video, we were in their home, and our video guy caught it. But it was really, that's how much Dennis Anderson and Gravedigger meant to Landon. And to be able to connect him, and it was, Monster Jam, the folks at Monster Jam sent him some T-shirts and, DVDs and things like that. And they really went above and beyond just, what we asked. We asked for 5 to 10 minutes of the celebrity's time, hop on a Skype, chat with them. At his advanced stage, he was shy. He didn't know what to say because there he is, Dennis Anderson
There's my
on
hero.
a screen talking to him, and he was right. Dumbfounded by it. But it was really, it was just a really special, very special experience that I count myself extremely blessed to have been a part of.
And it's so amazing, Jeremy. We could sit here and continue to tell stories for a while. There's. I recall you shared a story one time about another child that had I believe it was a children's maybe Christian artist that was they were a big fan that wound up the artist on their own just said, "Hey, I'll do a impromptu concert for the kid right here," and right there, across technology, it was a private concert for this little girl for 20 minutes, and they shared a moment.
Lori Berkner is the children's artist that you're talking about. I want to get their name out there, and if you've got kids, go buy her stuff on iTunes or wherever, because these are people that have helped Face2Face and helped our kids. So I want to plug them as much as possible. The little girl that she was nonverbal and and blind, and when her mom reached out to Face2Face. I read this request and I'm thinking, gosh, she's blind and she's nonverbal. That doesn't make her a good candidate for Skype. And so I'm trying to be as, polite as I can. And I asked the mom, I said, can she Skype? Is that something she can do, or FaceTime or whatever? And the mom said, probably not, but she gets turned down. She can't go on roller coaster rides, so she, going to Disney World like a lot of kids get to do, she doesn't get to do. She said, I cast a big net hoping that, somebody will do something for my girl. If that doesn't tug on the heartstrings, I don't know what does. So I emailed Lori Berkner, her representative, and I explained the situation. She said, I don't know what we can do. She's blind. She's nonverbal. So there won't be a lot, because part of Face2Face is that the celebrity gets to see the joy on the kid's face and gets to interact with them, as well. And, and we're hoping that it will touch the hearts of the celebrities just as much. So I said, she's not going to be conversational, but is there, what can we do? And she said, hey, Lori wants to, what are her 3 favorite songs? And she'll play them. And, the girl loves her music. She's not deaf. She's blind.
Yeah.
And she can't sing along, but she recognizes her songs. And, she had a song, I think it was called Pig on Her Head, and that was one of her songs. And she gets this toy pig and puts it on her head. And, it was the goofiest thing I'd ever seen. But the smile on this little girl's face when she started playing that song was nothing I'd ever seen. It was ear to ear.
Wow.
She was so happy. And, again, one of those things that to be able to make that happen, and when she's been denied by wish-granting organizations because she doesn't fit with their program, and there's always a way to bring a smile to a kid's face when, quite frankly, they don't have a lot to smile about a lot of times. And so that's not in our mission statement, but that's kind of our mission, if you will. We want to bring smile to the faces and joy to the hearts of kids that really need it.
Man, that is just so cool. All right, so as I was doing my homework here, I was going back through some emails and checking out some stuff, and I don't see the name for this, but you actually helped orchestrate getting a kid a chance to get Spider-Man to take some time out too.
This little guy, his heroes were all superheroes. And I thought, well, okay, challenge accepted, as Barney Stinson would say. I actually got a buddy of mine he's done like improv comedy, so he's got kind of the personality to be able to do it. And he's actually worked with, children's organizations before, so I knew he would be clean and be able to.
Yeah, right.
We rented a Spider-Man costume. We took him to the roof level of a parking garage in downtown Dallas.
Okay.
It was after most people had gone home. So you have the skyline in the background as if Spider-Man is going to, flick out his web and swing from building to building after the sky falls. So we kind of had that backdrop. And my friend that was kind enough to do it and play the role of Spider-Man knocked it out of the park. And that young man was thrilled beyond comprehension. I mean, and what was kind of cool, we got a little intel from his mother, and they had been to Disney World just a couple months before. So Jeffrey, my friend in the suit, was saying, hey, last time I saw you was at Disney World. Do you remember meeting me? And the kid's face, because I could see it in the background, the kid's face just lit up. And it was just the coolest thing. I mean, it was really fun. So that was one of we had so much fun with that. And I think the young man, you've got this 5-year-old face that his mom happens to be a photographer. So she was on that end. His expressions were priceless because Spider-Man knew him and remembered meeting him. And it was epic. It was epic.
That is just awesome. Well, again, we could sit here all night. I'm going to encourage you, if you're listening to this podcast, please take a couple minutes out of your day, spin over to Face2Face Foundation. That's Face, FACE, the number 2, FACE Foundation.org, and click on the photos. Take a look at what's going on. But let me remind you as well, there's a couple of things. There's some strategic timing behind this week's episode. And that's because as this gets released to iTunes and to Stitcher Radio, or maybe you're downloading it from our site at successchargerpodcast.com, September 17th is a very special day as well. September 17th this year is what's known as North Texas Giving Day. Jeremy, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on with North Texas Giving Day?
Sure. It's a very exciting day for everyone in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. It's the Communities Foundation of Texas does a giving day every year, and you want to see philanthropy big time. Every nonprofit in North Texas participates in this, and it's kind of a synergetic funding. And what happens, you go through their specific website, and we'll put a link on our website as well. But you go.
I was going to say we'll put that in the show notes as well.
It's kind of a synergetic giving day. A lot of large giving foundations, family foundations, that sort of thing, get together through the Communities Foundation of Texas, and they don't match, but they do a multiplier of that day. So any gift between 6 a.m. and midnight on September 17th through their portal gets multiplied. So it's a great way for your dollar to go even farther for nonprofits. You, of course, don't have to be in North Texas to do it. We have supporters all over the country that participate every year. This will be our third year to participate, and it's kind of a fun, it's a fun way for, if you're in the area, it's kind of a fun day. There's an energy in the air because you know that everybody's doing Giving Day, everybody's participating. There are giving stations throughout the Metroplex where you can go, and they've got different activities going on and things like that. But really, you just have to go online, go through their portal, and any donation, like I said, $25 or more, gets multiplied to stretch your dollar. And there's some fun giveaways that day. It may be like the 5,000th donation made that day to whomever. It could, whoever it happens to be of one of the several hundred organizations participating. They'll get, a $5,000, $10,000 gift, just kind of at random. So there's a lot of fun things, but for us, it's been our number one fundraising tool. It kind of kicks off the fall is kind of the big giving, with the holidays coming up, and people are starting to, of course, think about their taxes and doing all their philanthropic giving. So it kind of kicks the season off of giving every year, and it's always a lot of fun, and we're always thrilled to participate.
Again, let me just mention that September 17th, NorthTexasGivingDay.org, from 6 a.m. until midnight. That's Central Time in the United States. So 6 a.m. to midnight U.S. on September 17th. Any donation, $25 and above. There'll be some factor calculated by the end of the day that will sort of bonus a little on top of that on behalf of the North Texas Charitable Community Foundation, and that will go to the benefit of, a portion of that will go to, of course, Face2Face Foundation. You can anytime, you can stop by, I'll say this part, Face2FaceFoundation.org, scroll down to the bottom, there's a big button down there that says, donate here, and, I'm going to encourage you, folks, to really give this some consideration. Jeremy, you mentioned, this really kicks off your fundraising season, and here at the end of the year, many of us have the opportunity to look back, and we look back to 2015. I know for me, it's been a great year business-wise, and it has for a lot of others. And this is an opportunity to remember those organizations that are out there doing the great work. And certainly, I fully believe. Now, again, full disclosure. Jeremy considers me a part of the advisory board to the foundation, and one of the things that I've vowed to help him do is to get the word out, which is why you're hearing from him today on the show. I'm so excited and look forward to sign up for the newsletters. Make sure that Face2Face can send you a note. They don't do it very often. They're not cramming your mailbox full of crud every 3 days. But once a month, if you get something from Jeremy and the foundation, it's going to be about something that'll warm your heart and just maybe sometimes even stop you in your tracks. But I also want to remind you as well that any of us, that so many of the people that listen to this show, you're entrepreneurs, you're solopreneurs, you're people that you're bootstrapping your business. Maybe you do a lot of freelance work, but you could be in a traditional job. And if you are in one of those traditional jobs, I would highly encourage you, look and see if your company has a matching program as well. Face2Face Foundation is a 501c3, and they are an organization that certainly, if you could let Jeremy know, hey, our company has a matching program. Can you guys get together? I want to donate. And a lot of times employers will double up what you're given. And, anything that we can do to help the organization, look, $25 goes a long way. Even a small donation can make a huge impact that makes it easier to travel, makes it easier to follow up and respond to the folks that are reaching out on behalf of their kids, just saying, could you help us? Tell people if you know about a child who's really ill. They don't have to be chronic. They don't have to be dealing with a really tough battle. Listen, if we can put a smile on their face and a twinkle in their eye for a day, folks, I will tell you, I've sat face to face with Jeremy as he tells me these stories, and you can really see what's going on. This is really coming from his heart, and you really see it. There was one day you were telling me a story, and I'm pretty sure the bartender was laughing because we were having a beer, and it looked like we were sitting there crying because we were telling these stories about how cool these kids were. And I can remember the bartender's like, I don't know who these two clowns are over here at the bar, but
I mean, it could have been a Hank Williams song playing in the background. There's a tear in my beer, but
I think so.
It was happy tears knowing that we were able to, make a difference in the life of a kid. And if you don't mind, I'd like to touch on a couple things. One, last week
Please.
I went to our mailbox and I opened up a letter, and there were two things in it. There was a check. It was for $25. There was a form in it that said, hey, my company does a 2-to-1 match. Fill out this form, mail it in, and, we're expecting a $50, donation from the company. So that $25 turns into $75, just like that. We are a 501c3. It is 100% tax deductible donations in anything that we bring in. And I'd also like to say we don't have a paid staff. We don't have an office. I don't make any money from Face2Face Foundation. I never have. Everything that's donated to us goes to our program of connecting kids with their celebrities. Now, there is some, things like our website and, things like that cost money, and I guess that would be overhead. But, while Skype and FaceTime are free, travel isn't free. We connected a young lady up in Rockford, Illinois. This was a year ago, January. Her hero was an actor named Mark Blucas. Most people have never heard of Mark Blucas. I've got to be honest, I had never heard of Mark Blucas. And I watch a lot of movies. And I looked him up on IMDb, and I had seen Mark Blucas in a lot of things. He's just one of those character actors that's in a lot of movies that that you see but you don't know. He's not the star of the show. Well, he's the star of my show now because of what he did. He Skyped with this little girl. I flew to Chicago, got in a car, drove to Rockford, Illinois in the snow in January. Wow. He was there was it was kind of a whiteout condition, which being in Texas, it was kind of cool. We don't see that a lot here. He Skyped with this little girl. She knew him. He was in a TV series called Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He was on there several seasons. He played, I think, the love interest of the Buffy the main character. And so that's how she knew him from. She watched had all the DVDs. He Skyped with her. We said goodbye. Drove back to Chicago, got on an airplane, flew home. That night I get an email from her father and said that Brianna, they had to take her to the hospital up in Madison, Wisconsin, it's the nearest children's hospital. She was having problems. But the whole way she was driving them nuts because she wouldn't quit talking about getting to meet, Skype with Mark Blucas and see him face to face. That was January 2014. Fast forward to January 2015, I get an email from her father letting me know that she had passed. Sorry, I'm choking up a little bit. In his email, he said, I'm writing because you were, face-to-face, and what you did for her was truly a highlight of her life. And, wow. That just drove a knife into my heart. I was very deeply touched and moved, and if you can't tell now, but I got to thinking, and it wasn't even face to face. It was getting to Skype with Mark Lucas. So I emailed him. I still had his email address, and I forwarded that, and I said, her dad sent me this. I wanted to let you know that she had passed. He said some very kind words, but really, Mark, you were the highlight. It wasn't me. It wasn't face-to-face. It was getting to meet you, so I wanted you to know. Not 2 minutes after clicking send, I get an email back, and he said, yes, I was sorry to hear that. I actually just got a similar email from her father, and he goes, truth be told, we had become pen pals, and they had been emailing back and forth. Unbeknownst to me, she developed this friendship with her hero, this pen pal that lasted the next year until she passed. And, I mean, that's not something we, all we ask the celebrity for is 5 to 10 minutes of their time. We're not asking for them to send a package of monster truck, DVDs and T-shirts. We're not asking for them to be pen pals. I mentioned at the beginning of this, we work with Clayton Kershaw, who's the incumbent National League MVP and who's the 3-time Cy Young Award winner. He's the ace pitcher of the Dodgers. We connected him with a young man last winter, and I try to tell the handlers, if you will, the agents, the publicists, whoever we're going through. I try to tell them, hey, don't let them, make sure they don't offer them anything, because I can't fulfill that. And it's not like I pull out my phone and text these people. So we try to ask not that we don't want something cool for the kids, but we just say, because all we're asking is 5 to 10 minutes. That's our hook. That's what sets us apart. We're not asking the celebrity to get on a plane and go, to a hospital. We're asking for 5 minutes of their time. Get on an iPad or iPhone, computer, whatever has Skype, FaceTime, Google Hangout, whatever they want to use, we'll use. But we're asking for just 5 minutes, to take 5 minutes out of their time to brighten the day of a kid. And so Clayton Kershaw, we went through. He's a Dallas guy, so I went through a friend of a friend to get him, and it was during the off season, during the holidays, and he was happy to do it. I fly to Philadelphia, drive across the bridge to New Jersey, where this young man is, and he has been fighting non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He's a 15-year-old kid, plays baseball, plays the drums. Had a little setback. I'm happy to say he's in remission. His hair's grown back. He's doing training. He's playing ball again. This has a happier ending than some of the sad ones that I've told. But when Clayton was on the phone with him, or on the Skype with him, he said, hey, we play the Phillies. Why don't you come to a game and I can meet you in person? And, and I'm there with the kid. I'm like, oh, great. How am I going to track this down? So sure enough, early or mid-July, I get an email from the young man. He said, hey, I hope you're doing well. Thanks so much. Do you remember when Clayton Kershaw said that he would, want to meet in person and all that? Can you arrange that for me? I'll tell you what, this is a testament of the kind of guy that Clayton is. I email the lady at the Dodgers organization. I said, this was in the off season, but now I want to go through the organization. She wrote me back and said, hey, I ran it by Clay. He's looking forward to meeting him, and yeah, we'll do it. It can't be on a game day where he's pitching, so we had to kind of look at the pitching schedule because you can't talk to a pitcher, the day of their game, which I understand. But they rolled out the red carpet for this young man and his mother to come out. They gave him field passes, met Clayton, took pictures, gave him great seats for the game. He and his, and I'm actually sending, text messages to the kid's mom saying, send me some pictures. How's it going? She goes, we're still at the game. I'll send them later. but they enjoyed the game, and it was a really cool experience for him to, you know, to meet him in person, which is above and beyond, you know. So it's what's kind of cool is if you're picking up on this, a lot of the celebrities that we work with, we ask them for 5 to 10 minutes of their time, one hit thing. That's all we're asking for. But so many of them have such big hearts that they will go above and beyond. And, you know, when they do, you know, again, I tell them, you know, don't offer anything that, and it's not that I don't want them to offer things, but, you know, kids will remember. So if you're going to offer, you know, a game 8 months later, 9 months later, you know, you better own up.
Trust me, I have a 3-year-old daughter with a mind like a steel trap. If you ever promise anything, she will remind you. Well, I'll tell you what, you know, thank you so much, Jeremy, for your time today, because I wanted to be able to share some of these stories, you know, and you're right. You know, we don't promise, you know, I keep saying we, because I'm always love talking about this foundation. But you know, Face2Face doesn't ask.
I said, you're part of us. You're a very trusted advisor. And, you know, here's the thing. You're not just an advisor. You and your wife have made financial contributions. You have, you know, as I said earlier, you made the contact that got us Dennis Anderson. You're an active supporter and a very valued advisor to me and to our organization. And I love having you as a part of it. So thanks so much for the opportunity.
Folks, I hope you'll join me in saying thank you to Jeremy for all of his incredible work. It takes somebody with a great heart and an amazing spirit to do what he's doing for Face2Face Foundation. And I hope that if it's put on your heart to support what they're doing, that you'll participate. Don't forget to stop by facefoundation.org or stop by NorthTexasGivingDay.org on September the 17th. That's in 2015 as we broadcast this for the first time. If you do it on that special day, there's a good chance they'll pick up on some additional donations sponsored by area foundations there in North Texas. Certainly there's well over, I think, maybe 2,000 or so organizations that are participating. So if Face2Face didn't resonate with you, I'm sure there's 1,999 others that just might. So don't forget to make a difference. And one way you could make a difference on it seems so selfish to ask at this point, but if you do enjoy the show and you like the topics that we're bringing, or if you've got some feedback for us, please send us a message. Send it to podcast@ideacharger.com. Be sure to stop by iTunes and drop off a 5-star review and a couple of sentences about what you like about the show. We'd love to see that there. It'll help us become more visible. It gets more people to know what's going on. The numbers are growing like crazy, and I've got to thank you so much for all of your continued support for the show. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, if you enjoyed what you just heard, please post your 5-star review and subscribe to Success Charger today.